before entering into details about every register of communication, what I call a language, a psychological language, I think we have to say a few things to be clearer and maybe more precise. The fact to describe a language, and I will describe 4 pure languages, in fact is a way to be clear and to be simple, but it is not exactly the reality. Because I will say the people who have I will start from the needs and I will go to the behaviors and the way we behave, which, okay, together is a system I call a language or register of communication. I will start from the need and I will say the people who have the predominant needs in this family of need have a tendency to behave in such and such a way. Okay, it is true in a way, but it is not true, very often. Why? Because we are not only one language. We use all the languages, and plus it depends if we are in growth or in survival. When we are in growth, the main quality of being in growth is to be adaptable. So to be very flexible and to adapt to people and to situation according to the necessity of the exchange or the necessity of the management of the situation. So in growth, very often we can stress some specificity for each language, but in fact for the person is free. So the person is really adapting to the situation, so he's going to use all the languages. In survival, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, so in survival, typically you don't have the choice.
Yes, because our behaviors are stronger than us. Yeah. And they are managed, governed from inside, of ourselves, by emotions, by fear, not to have the satisfaction of our needs. So in survival, we are more stereotyped and more conform to the description I will give.
And that's so. I think that's a good point to say that, let's say, the growth aspects of a profile are maybe related to where you have some talents, or it goes a little bit easier where you have a flow in doing the things.
Yeah.
But they are not so easy to recognize than, let's say, aspects you have when you are in survival. So stereotyped versions of your profiles are more seen in the survival mode than in the growth mode, right?
Exactly. So when we speak about a predominant language, we say 2 things. It corresponds to a preference. We prefer to use this register of communication than the other one if we have the choice. But if there is a necessity to use another language, we adapt. Mm-hmm. And the second point, when we are under stress and we go into survival, we have a very strong tendency to go in survival in the same language again and again, which is the dominant language. And it's not by chance, because the survival is called by the fear not to have the satisfaction of our predominant needs. So we go in the predominant for the satisfaction of the predominant needs.
And you're trapped in your way of feeling, thinking, and acting.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a stereotype. Okay, so I think we said the main things. Can we stop a little, just a second? Because we can cut, huh? Because I think we had another idea, and I forget now. But you can go about that. Yeah.
On a parlé des quatre évolutions.
Non, on n'a pas parlé. Voilà, c'est ça. C'est ça. Voilà, c'est ça.
Je reprends là. C'est OK. The small cut, and then I start again. Robert, you had a nice example how to explain, in fact, the four types people can go in survival or growth depending of the evolution of a child. Could you tell me more about it?
Yes, that's a starting point of the model. You know, the different periods in the first child development cycle between the birth and pre-puberty, that means around 10, 11-year-old. And we can divide this period in 4 sub-periods. The first one, from birth to 1 year and a half, the child is dependent from the person who are in charge of him, and especially his mother. And it is a period where the child is in, everything is a danger. The child is not able to nurture himself, to protect himself in any way, to move for mobility and everything, is depending on the people in charge of him. So this period lasts until the child, you know, acquires the capacity to walk by himself and to move by himself. Okay, so let's say 1 year and a half. It could depend, you know, of a few months, depending on the individuals. But roughly, it goes to the capacity of walking. Second period, starting from walking, and all of a sudden the discovery of the world. The infant is in movement all the time. And from this period, from 1 year and a half to 3-year-old, child is discovering his autonomy, his capacity of movement, capacity of exploration of the world. So it will be a second period. Third period, every child is able to speak, around 3-year-old, and not only to be clean. And that's the moment a child knows his first period of school, preschool, kindergarten, maternelle, and whatever.
Integration of social systems.
Social integration, yeah. And he is going, especially during these 3 first years, the child is going to learn how to behave in society. What are the rules of life in society? He's not alone anymore. Yes, and he has to follow the rules of a group.
It's interesting. That's a period where a child gets clean, so starts to have also control about his own body.
Yes, and
understands rules.
Yeah.
Understands what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah, and so that goes up to the big school, the grammar school, the école primaire, or whatever we call it, and around 6, 7. And at this age, now start a new period which is going to be, you see the little adult in this period, you know, appearing. The child is going to, let's say, differentiate himself in what he does. So up to the pre-puberty, and we will enter a little bit into details later on, but we have, you see, we have 4 phases. One is a period of, which starts by the attachment to the mother. Strong cohesion, the family or little family or large family is playing an enormous role of protection of the child.
And dependency, right? And
a complete dependency. And we go after to a phase of autonomy and individuation, you know, because the child is able by himself to move and to discover the world. And we go to another period, which is another collective period, but around the rules, the law, the way to, the custom, the way to live in society. And we go to another period of individuation, which is stronger than the first one. The first one, it was, learning phase of autonomy, and now it's not autonomy. Sometimes it's going towards to be independent or to differentiate, himself or herself from the other ones. So that's the last period.
That's also the stage when competition begins. Grades in school, how good are you?
Exactly.
Finding your position in life or in the society, in the social system in which we are.
Yeah, exactly. And sport is organized also, and victory counts, and so on and so on. So we have these 4 periods with this movement of, collective, individual, which is very interesting. And you can see that everywhere in the world, So it's something which is in our genes. So that's what we are going to present later on.
Let's see.
Yeah, thank you.